Hi everyone, and welcome to Stamp with Angela. Welcome to today's live. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for joining me, and I'm excited to share some things today to do with Stampin Blends. So if you're here, please let me know. It's always lots of fun to come live to you. As always, there's a few challenges. Sorry, I'm a couple of minutes late. Had trouble connecting to Facebook, but it looks like now it's going live to both Facebook and YouTube, so that's great. Looks like someone has joined us. Awesome. Please say hi. Please let me know that you can hear me okay. I understand there was a slight echo last week. Sorry, I wasn't aware of that, but I'm checking the microphones and things, and it's looking like only one is showing, so hopefully no echo today. Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining me. Is sound all good today? Let's hope so. So for those of you that have just joined, I'm Angela Palmer, and I'm based on the North Shore in Auckland, New Zealand, and I'm a demonstrator. I've been doing this for over 13 years now, initially starting off as a hobby, but then now it's still a hobby, but also part-time business as well. So this morning I had a class at my home, which was great. Lovely to have people along and teach some techniques. So I teach a fun fold and a technique card, which was good. And had my regulars that came, and then we had someone new, which was exciting. Someone brought along their sister who was up from Christchurch. So that was really cool to have someone new come along. All right, thank you for those that are joining me. Elizabeth, Joe, excellent, glad to see the sound is okay. I understand it was slightly echoey last time, but hopefully we're all good. Excellent. So today I'm going to talk to you about Stampin Blends. I don't think I've covered these on a live before, so I thought I would share them with you and share some ideas for colouring. They look so effective with colouring. I don't use them a lot in classes because obviously it takes a little bit to share them around, but they are good to use. So this live is a great way of showing them. And one of the reasons for sharing them with you today is at the moment Stampin Up have their Black Friday special, which actually started on Tuesday and it goes till Monday. And one of the things on sale are Stampin Blends with 40% off. So if you've been wondering about getting them, now's a great time. So let me show you how to use them. And then you can decide for yourself, how you like to use them and learn some tips along the way. And then you may like to invest in some Stampin Blends too. So you need to be a little bit selective of what colours are available. Some are so popular they've sold out, but there's still a wonderful range of colours available. So check them out while they're 40% off. All right, so let's get started and we will take a look at my craft area and we will do some colouring. All right, let me just adjust my camera. Is that looking okay? So here we have some Stampin Blends. All right, so 10 tips for trying to get it straight so it's not all wonky for you guys. Does that look better? Hopefully that's okay and balanced. Okay. So tip number one is, so you've got your Stampin Blends, which is great. You also need to have the right cardstock. So Stampin Up cardstock, the white is great. If you've got thick, then that's quite good because it's that much thicker. If not, I've actually got standard here, so you could use either, but thick is not going to go quite all the way through. You don't really want any sort of porous or textured cardstock. You need a nice clean cardstock ready for colouring and things. That's good for colouring with the smoothness of the blends. So tip number one is having a good cardstock. So let me just adjust my camera because I think it's going to move a bit. All right. Oh, sorry, I'm going to get seasick there. Okay. So tip number one is using the right cardstock. So obviously a white and one that's good for colouring on. In this case, I'm using standard, but you could use standard or thick cardstock. Then the ink. The ink is very important. So these are Stampin Blends, alcohol-based pens or colouring. So you need to use Memento ink. Memento is a water-based ink, and so it's not going to mix. If this was alcohol too, then the colors would blend, which we don't want. So you want something that is going to work well. So you want to be able to stamp your image and then not have the alcohol affect it. So I'm going to stamp an image, and you do want to just let it dry a little bit as well. You don't want to like start coloring the second later. Give it not too long, probably at least 10 to 20 seconds. So let me stamp my image. I'm going to stamp it on here. Oops, I've got ink on my hands, and now I've got, that's all right, we have a spare. Let's go. Here we go. Now I'm using a stamp here. So I'm going to stamp that, and I'm stamping it on my paper piercing mat so it gives a nice firm image, particularly on this table. It's not very good for stamping on. Now the image I've used is actually a retired one, but it's a great example for showing colouring. I've realised I don't actually have many current ones that have flowers and leaves that are good for colouring. So I'm going to use the Spotlight on Nature, which isn't current anymore, but the dies are, which are cool. I have used for this, I've used the branching out dies, which I love, which have a range of different sizes, which is good for layering. So I'm going to show you some colouring with this. So I'm stamping it now to let it dry to avoid any smudging, and then we'll come back to that in a minute. And then I'm also going to do some colouring using the beautiful butterflies, and I'm just going to use a little one here. So I've actually pre-stamped that before. And this is going to be retiring. It's on the last chance, so you can actually still get it. Now let me cover my Memento ink so we don't put an elbow or something in there. All right. So we're going to start with the small one first. And it's a nice small image to start with. So you want to work, so tip number 3 is work in small areas. So do I have my butterfly that I coloured before as an example? So this is what I want to achieve. Okay. Now, each stamping blend comes in a pair. We have a light and we have a dark. And there are also different tips. So this is Daffodil Delight. And if you have a look here, it's thick and this is thin. So if I take off this end, you will see the thick tip, which in this case has had a little bit of a wear on it because these don't last quite as long. I tend to use the thinner ones. And here is the thin tip, which we're going to use more on this particular card. So now they're very tight to put on. You do really want to click them in place because you want them to be airtight. Otherwise, the alcohol is going to dry up, and we don't want that at all. So another tip is to, put the lids on tightly and also not leave them out because otherwise they're going to dry up. So use it, colour, put the lid on, use another one. Okay, so let me have a look here. So this is Granny Apple Green. Here is the narrow tip with the thin line. Click it in. And there is a nice tip on the Granny Apple Green with the bullet tip there. Okay, so here you'll see a dark and a light. So for this colouring, I'm going to just use the 2 colours. I'm using some Daffodil Delight and some Pumpkin Pie. Now you see this is kind of, what's the word? Colouring has gone a little bit. I don't leave them in the direct sunlight, but the room they're in can get a bit sunny. So sometimes over time, they do discolour a little bit. All right. So what I'm going to do first, using my, let's put them around here to the bullet tip. Using this, the thin tip. I'm going to use circular motions, and I'm going to start with the light. Now this has obviously had a long time to dry, and I'm only just going to do one side to start with. So I'm going to do some circles. Then I'm going to come in with, put my lid on, come in with the Daffodil Delight Dark and do a bit like that. Now you might see quite a sudden contrast, but don't panic with that just yet. We'll come back to it. Then I'm going to come in with my pumpkin pie and the light color. Again, I'm doing circles. And then lastly, I'm going to come in with the dark pumpkin pie. And you'll see quite a contrast. All right, now at the moment, if you have a look, you can kind of quite clearly see where the colors kind of start and finish. And there's even a bit of white in there that I've missed. So now what we want to do is add depth for kind of with a second layer, or just to blend those colors a little bit more. So I'm actually going to go on with the light, and I'm going to sort of circle over that first part and kind of blend over where the light and the dark start, so that the grading is a little more gentle, if that makes sense. And I might come in with my dark and just go over that border slightly. And I'm going to come in with my light, and I'm actually just sort of, oops, that's the wrong end. Sorry about all this clicking. Come in and sort of go like that. Now it's a little bit more sort of a, what's the word, gradual sort of transition. So let's kind of do that again on the other side. All right, so let's try again, but the reverse on the other side. So starting off with the light yellow on the outside, circular motions. And remember, you can always take color away. You can't kind of, sorry, you can always add color, you can't take it away. Then I'm going to come in with my yellow, again using that thin tip. You can see quite a, you know, difference there, but we'll blend those together soon. I'll come in with my light and then a bit darker. And then what I want to do is kind of blend those together a bit more afterwards. Light end, small end. Okay. So now let's come back with my light and let's see if we can kind of blend those colors together. So you can't see an actual line, but you see more of a gradual change from light to dark. And we might even just do it more on that side too. I'm not going to use my dark pumpkin pie again. I'm going to just come in with the light and just try and sort of blend those together a bit more, and then maybe come back in with the yellow and just, you can keep going back over the top and layering it just to kind of give that sort of effect where it's a gradual transition. So there you go. I don't know what you think. Obviously you can try other colors, but that is, how's my phone doing? Is it moving around a bit? Let's just adjust it again. Sort of some gradual colors. Do you like that? There's no kind of definite line like there was initially, but sort of just that blending of colors. All right. Cool. So let me know who has used blends. Who's got blends? Who likes to use blends? Who hasn't tried it yet? So with this one here, oops, wrong way. I'm not going to make it into a card. I just wanted to kind of show you coloring technique and things. And yeah, I've lost track of how many tips and things I'm up to. Let me just do a recap. So number one is using the right cardstock. So using a cardstock and things that works well. Then number two, obviously you need to use the Memento ink. 3, working in small areas because you want to let, it'll dry too quickly and you need to be able to blend. 4, well, you saw me start with the light first, then I added the dark, then I blended back with the light again. So that step 4 is kind of doing that layering thing, doing the light, then doing the dark. And then number 5 is using the circular motion. Now, number 6 would be, and I might have said this in a slightly different order, is is using the tips, which tip to end. So your brush tip is your wider one, so that's good for using like a large area. And then your bullet tip is good for using sort of smaller detailed edges, small spaces, which is exactly what we wanted to use on here. So the brush when it's something bigger, the bullet tip when it's smaller and more detailed. And you can switch between the two. Then you want to make sure, so that was 6, so using the right nibs, and then keep putting the lids back on so they don't dry out as well. So using them and looking after them, keeping those lids on. Then number 7, adding depth with that second layer. So like with this yellow here, that wasn't enough. So, whoops, wrong end. I went back again. Which one do we do today? This one here. And just went over it again a little bit more just to bring a bit more of that lighter color out. So when you've done it once, you don't have to do it and that's it. You can go back and add a second layer. So adding that depth with a second layer is tip number 7. Now, number 8 is something that I'm going to do more so in this particular one. And that is to prevent sort of bleeding outside the lines, is kind of colouring around the edge first. So I'm going to go with, sorry, I need to check if there's any questions and things as we go as well. All right, so I'm going to use Fresh Freesia for this particular one. And I'm going to use the bullet tip because, again, this is quite a small area. And I'm actually going to go around the inside so that I don't, or try not to go over the lines. Doing my best with my glasses here. Okay, so I've kind of gone around the edge. Now, in the past, I've said circle motion, so you can continue to do circle motions if you want, because of the type of image and sort of the strokes on the petal. With this one, I could get away with doing some lines if I wanted to because of the petals. So up to you whether you want to do lines or like we did earlier in circle motions, but some things wouldn't suit the circular motion. So there's my first layer. Now I'm going to come in with my dark. Again, just keep using that bullet tip. And there's already black lines here. So basically I'm going to go over those black lines, not all of them, but just some of them to add a bit more definition. And even down the bottom, I'm going to color more. Okay. Now at the moment, you can kind of see those lines and it's okay. But I want to blend it a little bit more. So like we said, we can go layers, light and then dark. Now we're going back to light again and sort of adding that a bit more sort of color to it if we want to. So my recommendation, and I always have to keep checking, is it light because it suddenly seems so dark, is start with light, then go to dark, and then back to light again. Again, I'm sort of doing lines, but you could do sort of circular motions. If I felt I needed it, I could again come back with a bit more dark, maybe a couple of them just to make them stand out. You can go back and forth lots of times until you're happy with it. All right? So let's try one more flower, and then I'll show you what we kind of make at the end. So I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to color on the inside just so I kind of, try and keep within the lines. I am going to do more of a kind of flicking line motion just because of the design of it. All right, then I'm going to come in with my dark, put that lid on, lids on, flick, trying to follow that sort of black line motion, bit more darker down there. And then I'm going to come back in and just sort of go over the top and just sort of blend those colors a bit more. If there's a bit of mist, I can do that. So let's do this last flower. I love this set. This is a wonderful set to use. Great for colouring. Very effective. Colouring, great for colouring with pencils. Also with blends. Come in with my dark. So you'll see I'm alternating dark, light, dark, light. And I can come back. You know, I could let it dry and I feel like, oh, I need to add a bit more as well if you want to. I'm going to come back and give a bit more dark in here just to make it really stand out. Now I need to show you the other side, and there was a tip that I forgot. Actually, I'm just going to do circles over it just to blend it a bit more. So, you know, you can, I hope I haven't gone too dark now. There we go. How's it looking? I'm trying to get a close-up look at it. Okay, there we go. If you have a silicone mat, I'm all right actually. It has gone through, but if you're worried about your surface, you could put a silicone mat down just to make sure nothing comes through. So this is standard cardstock. If you are doing it on a card front, well, you'll need to have something behind it just to be able to hide it, because otherwise it will show through. Now, I've made a card, and this is what we're going to do, something like this, using this. For this particular one, I have used old Granny Apple. But I thought with this one, we'll just try something different, and I'll use old olive, just so we can see the contrast and you can see what you like. So with this one, it's going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to start off with my lighter color, and I'm going to color down the stems. It's going to go over a little over the edge just because I can't get it perfectly in, but that's fine. We need to see it. Now with this one, I'm going to kind of color from the edges, and I'm going to color all with the light. I'm not doing circular because of the leaves. Let's do two while I'm here. I don't want to do them all light and then all dark because it will dry. So just do a little bit and then come in. So now I'm using my old olive dark, and I'm going in on some of those lines. Then I'm coming back in and just blending those colors. Let's do another leaf. Coming in, we'll do two, but no more than that. So coloring it with the light, coming in with the dark, just to have that contrast. I can do a few layers of dark to really make it show if I want, and then gently blend them a bit more. All right, how is that looking? Yes, I can see a contrast in color. I'm not sure how well you can. All right, we'll work in pairs. We'll do this one in light and this one in light. And then lids on. I know it's annoying, but you don't want them to dry out. Come back in and color. So this one's quite good because it tells us where to color with, you know, the extra black lines really, and then just blend it. Lucky last, little one here and this one. And we'll keep, switching between the two, on, off, but that's okay. Do you have any tips for using Stampin' Blends? All right, now, there we go. Let's have a look and see how much has come through. So that's what's on the other side. Okay, other tips. I'm losing count. I should have written them out more clearly. Okay, another, I think we're up to 8, is the color lifter. So this is a white one, and to be honest, I haven't used it a lot, but it can take out a bit of the color. So we're going to try it just around the edge of the flower, just to give a bit of a contrast. Got no idea what this is going to look like, but let's just try it and see. Just going to try it over here. I've had mine a while, so it's not like you can see color, so I'm wondering if I need to get a new one. Give it a bit of time. I can see there's probably a lot of color there, so it's hard for it to lift. Oh yeah, I can see the color coming out a bit. Now it's got that contrast slightly, particularly on this flower here. Can you see? It's slightly lighter around the edges. I don't know how easy that is for you to see. There's a tiny bit there, whoops, there's a tiny bit there where I've gone over the line. So let's see if I can just go over that and just take the color out. Oh, look at that. Now you can't see that it's gone over the line. So that's another good way of sort of getting rid of that. We ideally don't want to go over the line, but if we do, we can lift the color out. That is so cool. All right, so number 8 is the color lifter. So you can add highlights, like for example, if you had a balloon and you sort of want a lighter patch in it, you can, you know, create that. Or if you've got sort of shine on glasses or water like that, you could sort of come in with your color lifter, which would be really good. So that's kind of using the color lifter intentionally to take out some color. And then what else? What are my other tips? So my last tip is to do with storing, but number 9. So let me quickly go through the tips. Got them written down here. So number 1 is the cardstock. So use basic white or thick cardstock, something that's not textured for colouring in. Number 2, you need to use Memento ink. Number 3, work in a small area at a time. Don't colour the whole thing and then try and blend. Work in a small area because it will, you need to keep the ink wet. You need to blend while it hasn't dried. Number 4, you need to do the layers. So you need to start off with your light and then go to dark. Number 5 is to use the circle motions. Yeah, just particularly like in something like with our butterfly, just circular motion, so you're not seeing lots of lines. It gives that nice blending the colors together nicely. Number 6 was the different nibs that you've got. So you've got the thin, which is your bullet tip for edges and detail and that kind of thing, small spaces. You have got the thick for the larger areas, brush tip. But if you are using that brush tip, you do have to be careful with it, okay? Because if you're not careful, you'll easily, damage it. And you can obviously switch between the two. 7, I would also say, not quite sure if this was the order before, but 7 is keep the lids on. Okay, they will dry up. So even between using them, keep putting the lids back on so they're nice and tight. And then 8 would be using that color lifter. So you can take a bit of color out, getting rid of mistakes or just removing some of the color. So this is a really great thing to get. And then number 10 is storing them. So the important thing about storing these is you need to keep them horizontal. If you store them vertically, all the ink is going to run to one end. And if it's like this, it'll be your bullet tip. And then it'll be your brush tip, and you want your bullet tip and all the ink's down the other end. So if you keep them flat, then the ink is more evenly distributed, then it's ready to go either way. So it's very important with your tips and things to keep them, with the blends, to keep them flat, okay? And then other thing with, when I mentioned one of the earlier points, is doing light to dark and things, and then adding light, dark, light, and you can add extra layers as well. So it doesn't have to be one light, one dark, one light, that's it. You can just keep going back and adding layers as you need to. So lots of different tips there. Let me finish making this card and you can tell me what you think about the Stampin Blends. Do you have a favorite color? So what I've done with this card here is I've got Fresh Freesia and Highland Heather, and then I've cut the border in Fresh Freesia and mounted it like this. I'm going to do another one, and I'm going to do the reverse. So this one here I'm going to put on a Highland Heather border, and like so. So I'm going to glue this one flat. So these dies are really good because it just borders it nicely, and it's also got that stitched edging on it. So these are the branching out dies. Now this time I am using a different embossing folder. This one's quite subtle. This folder is the Beautiful Patterns, which is a newer one in the online exclusives. This is the Forever Plaid, which has been around for a while, and it's definitely still one of my favorites. I do use it a lot because can be sort of used for all sorts of different occasions. So let's put that on like so. Then I'm going to put this on here with some dimensionals. And then we're going to add a sentiment and some bling and a little bit of twine too. So I do like to put one in the middle just so it doesn't sag. I haven't got my tape pick tool to pull them off today. I do actually, but I forgot. All right, so let me try and get this nice and straight. That looks pretty good. Now for my sentiment, I use something a little bit different, something I have used before. It is the More Messages stamp set and dies. Which is it in here? No, it's here. So this is actually one big stamp, like so. Now I have used the Stamparatus because it's a big stamp, but you can just use an F block is fine. And I put a piece in here, and I'm just looking to see if I've got a big white piece, and I don't know if I brought it in with me. So I put my big piece in here. Where is it? Not here. Stamp it. And then I cut them all out in one go. Put that through my machine, cut them all out. Whoops, it's sticking to the magnet. And then I get a whole lot of different sentiments, which I have put in a bag like this. So this is what they come. This is all stamped and cut in one go. Okay, so I can choose what I want to put on that. Time to celebrate or way to go, whatever you like. Thanks a lot. Let's do a thanks a lot one. So all I did was adhere that with some dimensionals, and it's quite a narrow one, so I'm just going to use a couple of these. Hopefully they don't show. Yep, that's perfect. Actually, I might just spread them out a bit. Let's do two there on the other side. I'll spread them all out. Okay. So what are your thoughts of the Stampin' Blends? Do you like them? Do you have a favorite color? Have you used them before? Do you have any other tips? So let's put that there. All right, let's put these back in the bag so we don't lose them. Ready? So I have stamped this in Fresh Freesia. Whoops, there we go. All right, now I did add a little bow and some bling. So with this one, I have added, because it's Granny Apple Green, I added these sequins, from the Traditions of Christmas one. They're nice sparkly ones. So I've done a little bow there. So I'm going to do my bow. So 3 fingers, the end is there. I'm going to wind round once, twice, and then finish at the top. Cut it off. Going to pull it off and hold it and squeeze it in the middle. Then I need another piece that I'm going to tie around it. Now, if you find it hard to hold it and tie this, you can use a dimensional, not a dimensional, a glue dot. So I'm going to stick that down. I'm going to put this piece, now I can't see it, there it is, in the middle. Oh, that's not quite the middle, about the middle there. Put that on top. So that's just holding it in place so I can tie it. There we go. Now that might be sticky enough as it is. If not, I'll get another glue dot to put it down. We want to stick it in the right place, just above the, I might just grab another one because that's sort of, there we go. Let's put that there and stick that there. Now I'm going to use different embellishments because it's a different green. This was Old Olive. I'm going to use some silver ones, which I have on the floor. Some of these. So I went, because there was more open space here, I went one at the top and two down the side. Usually I do it the other way around, but just to kind of balance things out. Put the bigger one at the bottom, smaller one there. There we go. What do you think? Let's move all the other bits out the way. All right, so our two cards. So this one's obviously got a more subtle background, probably harder to see on the camera, but there is an embossed pattern there. I've used both Fresh Freesia, but then Granny Apple Green and Old Olive. Which do you like for the flowers and for the leaves and stems? And then obviously different embellishments to work with that. And then different sentiments from the more messages. So there we go. So that is some tips on using Stampin Blends. They are great for colouring. You obviously just need to look after them and be careful with them. So just remember, you know, having good cardstock, the right kind of texture and things, nice and smooth to work on. You stamp in Memento black ink. Work in a small area at a time because it will dry up. Do light to dark and then go back light again. Use that circular motion to avoid the lines and things. Unless you're, you know, wanting lines for an effect like leaves or something. You can go back, keep adding more layers to have more depth and things. Make sure that you're using the nibs wisely. You've got your bullet tip, which is for your more detailed and more delicate sort of areas. Your brush tip, when you want it sort of softer and larger areas to colour. And keep those lids on. Don't let them dry up, okay? So even if you're switching between the two, keep the lids back on. It is a tight fit because we want them not to dry up. You can use the colour lifter to remove some of that colour if you've gone over the lines, or to add some sort of effect, some highlighting, that kind of thing. And you need to store them nice and flat so they're ready with the ink either way, not vertically where it's all going to go to one end, but store them flat. So there you go. So remember that Stampin Blends are on special at the moment with 40% off. So now is a great time to see what colours and things are available and check them out. If you want to know, not every single colour comes with Stampin Blends. So if you check out the annual catalogue and look in the back on page 137, it will show you, because they come in pairs, a light and a dark. They're usually $23, $25, and now they're $13 something. So that's an amazing saving. So if you have a look, if there's a code down here where it says Stampin Blends, then they are available. So for example, there's no early espresso Stampin Blend. There's no crushed curry, but there is Daffodil Delight. So a lot of colours have them, but not every single colour. And you'll need to check out to see which ones are on sale too. Awesome. All right. So Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Appreciate you watching. I hope you've learned some tips and things with Stamping Blends. I'm going to have to check out some new stamp sets that are great for colouring to do my stamping and colouring with. So thank you for watching. If you use your Stamping Blends and do some colouring, please share some pictures with me. I'd love to see what you create as well. Remember, the Black Friday special is until Monday, but it's while stocks last. So some of those products may sell out sooner, so don't delay. All right, let's come back to me. There we go for the end. All right, so thank you for joining me. Appreciate you being here. Hopefully you've learned some tips and things, and maybe you've got some tips with Stamping Blends as well. I'd love to hear if you've got some other tips for using them too. And if you haven't had a go yet, why don't you get a couple of colours? If you're looking at colours and you like flowers and things, I'd recommend a green, maybe like granny apple green or old olive, depending what colour you like. Maybe a yellow, because that's quite good for flowers and things. And then choose another colour that you like fresh freesia or real red. If you like Christmas things, then maybe you'll go more for real red and a green. And obviously it depends on what's available too. So maybe check, I'd say you probably need 2 or 3 colours so you can sort of, blend together. And that kind of thing, or maybe you like yellows and oranges. Have a think about what stamps you've got that require colouring. There are some natural stamping blends for colouring skin tones and that kind of thing too. So they are not pear, they are like a medium, a dark, that kind of thing. So they're slightly different, so check them out too. If you've got any questions, let me know. I'm happy to help and answer any questions. So thank you for your time today. Took a little bit longer with that colouring and stuff, but I appreciate you being here. So we'll see you again next week. Thanks and take care. Bye. Actually, sorry, I haven't gone yet. One more thing before we go. Sorry. I did mention the Black Friday special for Stampin' Up. I forgot to mention my Black Friday special. So if you're on my mailing list, you would have heard about this already. If you're not, then you might like to sign up to my mailing list, but I will be sharing this on my social media either later today or tomorrow. I have some online classes that I am offering with a 30% discount. So these are classes. 2 of the classes are videos and a PDF. They've been put together by myself and the Crafting Across Borders team. One is creative colouring using watercolour pencils. So if you're not quite up to blends and you want to just start with watercolour pencils, check out that class. That's some great tips on colouring. There is also a class to do with solid stamps. So solid stamps, so today we used line images that you colour. These are stamps where you just stamp in one colour and that's it, and different techniques to use those. There's at least 3 different techniques there, are different ways to use those particular stamps. That's a class of videos and PDFs. And then there's one other class, the magic of heat embossing with fun folds. That is a PDF class only, so that there's no videos, just read the PDF. And it's got quite detailed photos showing you how to do things. And that's if you're wanting new ideas with heat embossing, then check that, or tips with heat embossing, check that out. And there are also some fun folds involved as well as teaching you the heat embossing. Now, some of you have purchased some of those classes before, so that's great. If you've got one and not another, you can buy one, they're 30% off, or buy all 3 for 35% off. I'll share a link soon in the description for that as well, but more details will be available tomorrow too. All right, thanks again for watching. This time I will go. All right, see you again. Thanks so much. Bye.